Build compelling real-time apps quickly and scale them globally with the PubNub real-time network. Only PubNub delivers the core building blocks needed for any real-time application. Find out for yourself by signing up for free today. Visit pubnub.com. Welcome to This Week in Location-Based Marketing, the most trusted podcast dedicated to the new business of location. It is time for This Week in Location-Based Marketing. This is episode number 144, recording this live between Asif and myself on Sunday, August 25th, 2013. My name is Rob Woodbridge from Untether.tv, located in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. And with me, as always, for all 144 episodes to date, no pinch hitter required.
None yet.
None yet.
Asif Khan from the Location-Based Marketing Association. Yeah.
Yes, located in Toronto.
Happy to be here. Happy to be doing this.
Yes, I was watching your Toronto Blue Jays play today, and they squeaked out a tight win over the worst team in the entire league. That's
After
National
losing
American.
2 to them.
Yeah, I know. They lost 2 out of 3 to Houston, and my New York Yankees roll in there next week, starting tomorrow with Derek Jeter coming back from the disabled list for the third time. Third time's the charm.
Your New York Yankees also just avoided this week, right?
Yes, yeah. I know.
Okay, all right. Just so we're clear.
I like to bring. This is not the baseball show. This is the place where you come to find out what has been going on in the location-based marketing world, contextualized-based marketing world, in the mobile world, all in one episode, once a week. And I know you guys love this because you keep coming back week after week after week, and we appreciate it. We can't thank you enough. And if you do, if you come back here quite often, if you are here, if you're listening to this right now, do us a solid, just one little solid. Go into wherever you found this, whether that's iTunes or any other podcasting location, RSS feed, wherever you found this, and they have this little thing. It's like a bunch of stars. What we'd love you to be able to do is give us click on 4 or 5 stars, leave a comment. Man, that is our currency. It is why we do the show. If you do that for us, we'll keep doing this for you. Please go and rate this podcast. Give it a little comment. It helps us. It helps you. And boy, oh boy, oh boy, do we ever get the warm and fuzzies, when we see those comments come up on iTunes.
Love it.
Yeah, so please just do that for us, right? Just we'll wait. We could spend a couple of minutes and we'll wait while you do that, but we wouldn't put you through that. But please, when you get a moment, we'd appreciate it. If you could do it this week, we'd appreciate it even more. Thank you very, very much for tuning in. Asif, before we get into the show, what's going on with the Location-Based Marketing Association? You are so busy in September. It's crazy.
Yeah, well, we got a whole bunch of new events coming up. The fall schedule is just about to start. School's going back. We're going back. Everything's is rolling again. So it all kicks off for us September the 10th. We're launching a brand new chapter in Dallas. So that's exciting. We've got a great event coming together there with AT&T, Millennial Media, the marketing arm, all sorts of great folks involved. Michael's Stores, American Airlines, I think, is on the panel as well. So it's going to be cool. Lots of good discussion going on there. The following week in Europe, we've got LBMA events in Cologne and Madrid as well that week. And then the week after that, I won't be there, but the LBMA's Atlanta chapter on the 25th is hosting an event as well. So plenty going on, and it just rolls from there. We've got stuff all through October in New York, in Toronto, in San Francisco, and all the chapters are rolling again. So,
my goodness, I don't know how you do it, but we appreciate it. Those of us in this industry appreciate your evangelism, what you're doing for this industry. So thanks, Asif. It was good though. You had the summer off to enjoy your family. Now they remember what you look like.
Literally, as I was telling you as we were getting set here, 4 hours ago, I was standing in galoshes in the middle of a lake with a fishing rod, and here I am now. So, yeah.
This is life in Ontario, though, isn't it? It's, you're always a stone throw from a cottage, and that's the greatest part about living in it. For those of you who don't visit Canada or haven't been up to Canada, Ontario is especially northern Toronto's northern Ontario is cottage country, and around where you guys are, it's amazing. And we have it around in Quebec here and in Ontario. It's just that's what Canadians live for. Those 17 days of summer that we get every year. Right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Then we go out there, we just get sunburned, right? And that carries us over for the rest of the year.
And all the mosquitoes.
All the mosquitoes. Yeah, we get bit, eaten alive, and sunburned. And that is exactly what our summer is.
And we love it.
I know, it's so crazy. Well, we have a jam-packed show today. We have stories about Google, GoDaddy, Coors, Coca Cola, Nuance, Apple, Placeable. Plus, we have our app of the week, which is Clinch, which is a very cool video app. We have our mobile minute with Chuck Martin and our resource of the week, and we're going to be talking about that. Resource is really cool. It's about the difference between North America and Europe and location-based services, and it's a pretty in-depth study. So you want to stick around for that. That is going to be the end of the show, of course. We have no guest because we have so much news. We'll be back next week with our guest, who's going to be Nora Young, who is an author and also a host here in Canada on CBC. She actually has a great podcast, and she's going to be coming on talking about a little bit about contextual content and basically self awareness. And it's going to be a pretty amazing thing because it all has to do with these wearable computers that we are now starting to consume. So that'll be next week. But no guests this week because we got so much news, right?
You got that right.
Why don't we jump into this episode right now? Asif, I brought to you last week Mixbit, which was this location-based contextual video application. And you brought this week an application called Clinch, which I think is freaking awesome, man. It's awesome.
I literally just had a chance to play with it. I read about this thing. I read some reviews on it and thought it was cool. And I had to come up with something, to compete with Mixbit. So my response is Clinch. It's literally the same thing. It's about pulling together video and photos, your own or stuff out there on Instagram or based on your location, and assembling them into a quick little mashup. Or collage, if you will, of images and video with music that you can pick from your own iTunes library or stuff that they've already got in the app. And it just smashes the stuff together and creates a contextual little, snapette, let's call it.
It's amazing. It's amazing. But what I love about it is that, you can do all those things that we're talking about with Mixbit, but you bring in all your audio, your video, your photos, as you said, you can connect it to Instagram and do your Instagram video, and you can borrow from other people, and then you just hit go. Like you choose the kind of filter that you want on it. So you can do like old school, or you can just do a collage, and then you put the music behind it, and you quite literally hit a button, and then it takes about 2 minutes to process it, and then it pushes you back this video that's all done up. I'm going to play mine right here, if you don't mind. It's my kids at Upper Canada Village. It's just a very quick clip for 40 seconds. Just watch this. There's just going to be music for those of you who are listening, but this is a perfect example of how cool this is. And I didn't do anything. I just picked the 6 things and hit go. So here, take a look. So simple.
Yeah, I mean, I just did it as well. It's dirty easy to do. I love it. I mean, it reminds me of, when you're just using iPhoto and you upload a bunch of stuff and you've got like your folder there and you just like highlight a few photos and you say create slideshow.
And it's done.
And it's done. Like it assigns a piece of music to it, or you can pick whatever music you want or the style you want. It's exactly the same thing. But add to that a location feature.
Yes.
Which is, if there's other people, let's say you're doing this, I'll go with Rob's favorite, you're at the Yankees game or you're at the Springsteen concert or whatever, and there's other people there snapping photos too. Well, let's see who's on the system. Let's grab photos from them. Let's create a big mashup with everybody's stuff based on location. Love it.
Amazing. And in fact, Lululemon actually has a video on here about the mat. So it's about the yoga mats that Lululemon puts out, and so there's like basically a I don't even know, it's like a 15 or 20 second video about that, and it's got like 1,000 views, right? So there's a brand experience here, brand opportunity here, just exactly like Mixbit, but this is very simple, man, I really liked it. So if you're interested in it, you can get it from, it's available on Google Play, it's available on the App Store, and you can go to clinch.co. I think this, like Mixbit, has a huge ramification. This kind of video application has a huge ramification on brands. So you got to start looking at these things to be able to bring this type of technology into your business. And if you can, there's an audience already waiting for this on these platforms. You got to go find them, and I think that's very interesting. Yeah, clinch.co, clinch.co. Very cool.
Awesome.
Nailed. All right, so we got 7 stories. We're going to jump into this. Midway through, we're going to stop, and we're going to have Chuck come on and talk about the plight of the QR code, certainly with what's been going on with Scanbuy and Microsoft getting into this. We give a little bit of context to that and about how it's related to mobile commerce and mobile wallets and mobile payments. So we'll get into that, and then we'll be back on the other side for a bunch more stories and our resource link. So our first story, this, you know what, if you had told me that first of all, that people were going to take their glasses and put cameras on it and wear it and look like Robert Scoble, like a complete doofus with Google Glass on, I would have thought, I could have gotten over that. I said, there's always going to be people that are interested in doing that. But then if you told me that Google was going to monetize this by putting a patent around something called the pay-per-gaze, which allowed you to basically... whenever you look at a brand, charge the brand. I think this is the best business model ever on the planet, if anybody can get away with this. But Google has patented this thing called pay-per-gaze, right? Where it charges advertisers every time a consumer wearing something like this, a Google Glass, looks at their brand or interacts with their brand. This can't be for real.
I read the patent
I know.
filing. I mean, it seems pretty real to me. This is... Google being Google trying to lock up a market segment that they're first in. I mean, Apple does this too, but as far as the glass technology is concerned, they're the guys out there pushing the boundaries, and as they should, as an advertising company, figure out how to monetize this thing. And there's actually 2 parts to this. There's the pay-per-gaze piece, which it's just mind-boggling that every time you look at something, an advertiser is paying for that.
What does Google do? They just send an invoice. It's like we've got a 1,500.
Well, it's an ad impression, the same as anything else, right? It's the same. It's the same as a banner pops up in front of you. It's an impression. This time they can actually tell that you're looking at it or not looking at it. And that's the first piece. The second piece, as I was reading this thing, is what they're calling paper emotion, which is so you're looking at this thing and they can tell your attentions on it. Then they can also determine whether it generates interest for you or not, in the sense that does your iris get bigger or smaller or this kind
pupil
kind of
dilution.
Stuff. How do you react to this? And then they can charge you even more for that. So this is pretty crazy stuff. This is absolutely something I think is legit. And if they can pull this off and they can get, it all comes down to, can we get people to use glass-based technology like this?
Yeah.
Then they're gonna rock.
And this patent was filed May 11th, 2011. So don't think that this was just an overnight thing. This is obviously something that they've been thinking about for quite some time. And they just need a vehicle like Google Glass to come through and then be able to actually do this. But I think that this is much bigger when you start to get into smart boxes on television sets and all those kind of things. There's smartphones, certainly with the cameras on the front, and Android has the kind of waved answer, and when you look away now, your videos stop on certain Android phones. So like when you start to think about that, they're already building this kind of expectation into it. So now and the resolution of the cameras to me would indicate, listen, front-facing cameras getting much better. You can tell how dilated your pupils are.
Well, and maybe a sidebar to this is that the crowd optic guys that we worked with a while back on the L'Oreal project, that whole technology is what they refer to as focus-based applications.
Yep.
So that whole idea of where is the device pointed, and what's the focal point? You can't have a focal point in that context unless you have at least 2 people looking at something, right? And so that becomes really interesting too when you look at monetization models like this that Google's talking about. So I think we're going to see that the combination of those things start to come together.
You know, another piece of this, and I agree, and another piece of this was something that they call latent pre-searching, which is basically augmented reality searching. So if you're looking at something, anything, like you're looking at a store or you're looking at a monument or you're looking at something, this is what we've talked about quite a bit, where literally whatever you're looking at, it would give you some augmented reality search results, and they call it latent pre-searching. And I think that is pretty cool. And I think there's a whole bunch of privacy challenges around that. But that's another piece to where they can actually monetize.
For sure.
Pre-searching.
Yeah.
For Google, man, these guys just push it. They just push it. They're absolutely 100% like Apple when it comes to these things, and I just love the fact that they're doing this effectively. Yeah.
Awesome. All right.
So Google's pay per gaze. Now that's G-A-Z or Z-E. G-A-Z-E. Pay per gaze. All right, our second story. This is interesting. GoDaddy of GoDaddy fame. Scantily clad women in the Super Bowl ads. GoDaddy, the big host, the internet service provider, acquires a company called Locu for a considerable whack of cash. What is this about?
Yeah, so the considerable amount of cash is rumored to be about $70 million in cash and stock, some combination thereof. There were some serious players involved in this deal, or the investors in this: General Catalyst, Lowercase Capital, Lightbank, and these guys, they've been at this for a while. Locu is in a space where, the whole sort of evolution of the Yellow Pages market, the whole sort of industry business listing market. Is rapidly changing in such a way that we're seeing acquisition after acquisition, merger after merger. We're just seeing a ton of activity in this space, and it comes down to two factors for me. One is the accuracy of the data itself, and how that's being collected and put together, and just the sheer number of errors that we see in internet search today when you search for whatever Mexican restaurant in Toronto, so the accuracy piece is really interesting, and then I think the second piece is the method by which you actually collect and collate and pull that data together and dedupe it and all of that. So what you have here is internet service providers like GoDaddy or Register.com or any of these guys out there. Part of their business model, outside of you buying, a domain name from them, is selling you, web hosting services and email services and all the other stuff that comes with now that you own this domain. Well, you've got a business too, and a lot of these, in a lot of cases, you want to make sure that your business is properly listed. So it's a logical thing for a internet, hosting name provider to have a service like this. They already had the Locu service integrated into the GoDaddy offering, so this was a logical fit for them. So I like this deal. I think we're going to see even more of these kinds of things. This is just, we saw the Apple locationary deal. We're going to be talking about another Apple deal shortly on this. You're going to see more and more of this.
Yeah, these guys, 30,000 businesses, and mostly, restaurants, spas, accountants, a lot of those.
Yeah.
They're a young company, less than 2 years old, spun out of MIT. They charge a flat fee, I think, of $25 a month, and these guys are in an interesting space, and close to your heart, obviously, with the data localization, normalization, location normalization. And Blake Irving, who's their CEO of Locu, says that they are hell bent on helping the little guy on the internet, and I like that approach. A lot of people go upstream at enterprise, and they look at enterprise as the be-all and end-all, but 90% of the world is built on small businesses, on the back of small businesses. So kudos to this. $70 million bucks.
So here's one thing I'm going to throw out. Just a prediction of sorts. I know we're not at the year-end prediction show yet.
That's okay, though.
But hey, so you see this deal. You see the Apple buying locationary deal. Yep. We've seen a couple of these deals now. That's about business listing data.
Yep.
Watch for AOL's patch to buy something like this.
And we haven't talked about patch at all, right?
Nope.
And
watch for patch. This is a logical play for patch. This is all about small, medium business data accuracy, enabling that small, medium business owner that's in that local patch or whatever you want to call it, to get their stuff in there and then build advertising around it and drive traffic to it and do deals on it and all of that. Watch for AOL's patch to buy something like this.
Well, if you're a company in this space, things are looking up. Go knock on Patch's door. So GoDaddy acquires Locu for 70 million smackaroos. All right, our third story here, Steve. I got totally confused about this. Coors Light doing this thing called Refresh the Night campaign. So let me get this straight. This is about a contest about in Buffalo, Syracuse, Albany, Boston, Pittsburgh, New York City, and Philadelphia. It's about a contest about who has the best transition from day into night. And you take a photo and you submit the photo, and then you can win some stuff.
Yeah,
fill in the blanks here, because this.
That's exactly it. They're going after obviously a certain demographic. They're going after a demographic of people out there who drink Coors Light.
Yeah, but they're all in their 60s.
No, they're not.
Coors Light?
No, they're not.
No,
not this crowd that they're going after.
No, I know.
We're talking about an SMS tech savvy party crowd that they're going after.
And they drink Coors Light?
And apparently they drink Coors Light.
I thought they were I thought that generation was into like that micro brew pubs and unique beers that are only available in their block and that kind of stuff. Not Coors Light. I could be wrong.
I don't know, man. Well, I don't know, but I'm not in the generation anymore, so I can't comment. But
I'm like a two Coors. I'm a two Coors Light guy, and then I crawl into bed. Right? Is that the transition from day to night?
Something like that. We just have to have a photo before and after, and then we create a clinch about it.
Exactly.
Then we push it out there.
Sorry, I keep interrupting. Talk about what is this thing? Refresh the Night.
So there's bars in these cities that you mentioned. It's a campaign that's running till October 31st called Refresh the Night, as you indicated. Basically, these bars have text and short codes hidden in them. You go there, you take a photo of your day look, you take a photo of your night look, and you basically text these things in, and you can win prizes. And the prizes are pretty interesting. Like, I mean, one prize I saw in here was a limo and a night out with concert tickets and party invites to nine of your friends. So you and 9 other people get to ride in a limo and go and party. And the short codes are unique to each local market, so they know where it's coming from. They're supporting this with social media and radio campaigns as well. So, I mean, they're doing a lot of work to promote the overall campaign. It's not just something that's happening on mobile.
I like it. I mean, I think that it's tough because Coors Light drinkers, maybe there's a different demographic than they're actually going after, but maybe they're trying to bring that into that demographic, and I like the idea. It's localized, it's very highly targeted. You have to be in a location to be able to qualify for this. You have to be in a bar. You have to go through that transition. You have to do one action, which is take a photo before and after. So this really resonates with me. Although I don't know that Coors Light is that brand that evokes that. Suit by day, tie around the forehead by night kind of thing. Right? I think Coors Light is like Carlsberg or like 50, right? You have a stereotype of a person that drinks one of those, and they're not.
I don't know, man. I drank a lot of 50 when I was in university.
So did I. But that's 50. Where's 50? 50.
That's a very Canadian thing. That's very, Saint Gon is,
Sing out, yeah. Laurentide, right, and I used to smoke, Gravenet greens when I drank a lot too.
There you go.
Green Death. Anyway, so this is, I mean, it's unique enough. It's Coors Light, Refresh the Night. Just do a Google search if you're interested in finding out some more information about those. But it's only available Buffalo, Syracuse, Albany, Boston, Pittsburgh, New York, and Philly. Cool.
All
right. Now, talk about our fourth story here, Asif. What is this about LocationInsight becoming Placeable? And I think that's the small story compared to what it is that they're doing. They've launched these services. Why don't you walk us through this?
So, I mean, it goes with the same theme of what I was talking about with Locu. I mean, LocationInsight's a company that's been around for a while. They've rebranded it as Placeable. They've launched a new kind of commercial version of the platform. And again, this is about data accuracy. Yeah. This is about a platform that's already got 2 million locations listed in it. Mostly, in this case, not so much small, medium businesses, but big brands, corporate entities getting their location data into a system. They mentioned Bank of America, Western Union, American Express, Nationwide. All these kinds of guys have all their location data in the Placeable system. And again, it's about accurate lookup. It's about making sure people find the right thing when they're looking for it. We've all been there. We've all used Google and search for stuff, or Apple or whatever, and had results that weren't 100% of what we thought they were. And Placeable's trying to solve that. Locu's trying to solve that, in different ways. But again, it comes down to accuracy of data and method for getting that data in and checking and verifying it. Locationary that we talked about earlier, that Apple acquired, had a whole different way to do it. Using consumer game dynamics and all that kind of stuff. And this is a much more corporate play, where this is the business is saying, I'm American Express. Here's a database, or Excel spreadsheet or whatever it is with all my locations. I verify this is accurate, get it in there, and make sure it gets disseminated out to the people who care.
This is, this is a perfect example of why we need that centralized database, and this is a piece of it, obviously. But Ari Kaufman, who's the CEO, this is a staggering statistic. He said that in one of the articles that I read, he said that dirty location is what they call this. Dirty location data costs the U.S. businesses over $10 billion a year in lost sales. Yeah, that's a problem, right?
That's a big problem.
That is a problem, and it's a problem that didn't exist 5 years ago. It just didn't, right? Because of now with so much location data and so much reliance on GPS and data and Foursquare and all of these different applications for discovery, this is now a huge problem. And these guys are tackling it. And they're tackling it. It's not cheap. It's $300 a month plus $2 per location. And they have, I think that the last I saw, they had 2 million locations worldwide in 195 countries that they were managing. And they did a lot of the grunt work themselves. And I think that it's fascinating. But a $10 billion problem, who'd have thunk?
Yeah. And according to their stats, it's $10 billion in lost sales, but it's also 20% of the data that we pull back in those search results is inaccurate.
20% of the data that we...
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Yeah, this is like, I never would have thought that there was that much lost revenue as a result of this. Holy cow.
What are we doing here, Rob? We should be out fixing problems like this. Come on.
God, you got to find the problems first. Good on Ari for doing that. So Placeable.com, and this is a self-service platform, and I'm fascinated by it. It's $10 billion. Jesus. Get your locations right, people. All right. Those are the first bunch of stories. We're going to jump into Chuck Martin talking about Scanbuy and the plight of the QR codes right now in our mobile minute. We'll be back on the other side to finish this off and give you a resource of the week. Stick around. You want to stick around for the Coca Cola. That's why I kind of wore this shirt. If you can't see it, it says Canada. It's the closest thing that I've got to Coca Cola. Coca Cola, stories about Coca Cola, Nuance, Apple, and of course our resource. But here is Chuck Martin talking about Scanbuy and the plight of the QR code. Welcome back to another Mobile Minute. Chuck, are there any correlations between the way that QR codes were adopted and the way that mobile commerce will be adopted?
Well, there's kind of a lesson here. Several years ago, I came across this company. I was at a Media Post event in New York, and a company called Scanbuy, and they had a QR code. And I tried to scan it with my BlackBerry. I remember those days, and it didn't work so well. And this is just a little startup. Well, recently, that company just took over the tag business for Microsoft. So they now are essentially dealing with all the Microsoft tags for that Microsoft is getting out of that whole business. And the point here is that a company can really stick with it. And if they stick with it, they ultimately can survive and thrive, which is really what happened here. And I'm looking at commerce really following the same pattern. There are going to be innovators that fall by the wayside, of course, but then there are going to be companies like the Scanbuys of the world that stick it out, and ultimately they're going to be succeeding in commerce because they basically are innovating and following a path.
So is this really just about a waiting game, standing your ground, taking opportunities when you can, and then holding on?
Well, Scanbuy, actually, I know this company pretty well. They're a case study in both my last two books. They actually weren't just standing still. They were doing quite a lot in terms of what happened in that space is it's evolved that codes are simply becoming now triggers to experiences. So companies like Scanbuy, Spiderlink in Denver is doing the same thing. They basically are using the code or AR or whatever it is that they're triggering something that brings a consumer to a richer experience. And that's where the value is.
Should they be marrying the two, like QR codes and commerce? Is that the perfect marriage for mobile commerce?
Ultimately, it's going to be part of commerce. There are a lot of things that are going to be part of commerce. It's just a matter of making this thing kind of holistic and glued together.
Chuck Martin, ladies and gentlemen. Oh my goodness. Author of Mobile Influence, and obviously a guy that knows what he's talking about around this industry, specifically around location, marketing, and mobile commerce. So that was Scanbuy and the plight of QR codes. Now that is part of something that I do every day with Chuck. It's called the Mobile Minute. You can check it out on untether.tv. You can subscribe to it through iTunes, or you can just subscribe to this and you'll get it once a week in your inbox. So thanks, Chuck, for doing that. Thanks for letting us use that clip on This Week in Location-Based Marketing. All right, back at it. Hey, you know, Coke used to have this great slogan. You know, it was like, I'd like to buy the world a Coke. Remember that?
I'd like to buy the world a home and furnish it with love. Grow apple trees and honey bees and snow white turtle doves. I like to teach the world to sing with me. Perfect harmony, perfect harmony. I like to buy the world a Coke and keep it company. That's the real thing. I like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony, perfectly. And I'd like to buy the world a Coke and keep it company. It's the real thing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, that was just like the greatest thing. It was the greatest marketing
Love
slogan
it.
ever. Yeah, so now they got this thing called Movement for a movement campaign. What is Coke all of a sudden healthy?
Well, they're certainly trying to be position themselves as healthy. I mean, Coke is not the Coke we grew up with. It's a water company, it's a juice company, it's a all kinds of stuff and healthy company. I mean, they still sell a lot of Coke. Don't get me wrong.
Exactly. They're still called the Coca Cola company, right? They're not called the water company or the Fruitopia
Yeah, they're still
company.
called they should be called the sweet syrup company.
Exactly. The rot your teeth company.
Yeah, but it's all good, man. I love it. I'm still a big fan.
They're innovators. They're innovators in mobile and social. Like they're like the canary. Like Starbucks is on the payment side, Coca Cola is on a lot of the other fronts. So I absolutely I tip my hat to them. But really, a health company? Come on.
Yeah. So basically, they've teamed up with a thing called the Global Poverty Project. For this campaign called Movement for Movement. And this is kind of a little bit old school in our world. This is, check-in, scavenger hunt kind of stuff in New York City. And basically there's a bunch of charities that are participating in this, and you've got to identify these locations. It's literally a scavenger hunt around. But it's about bringing awareness to 10 nonprofit groups in New York City. Like one of them is a police athletic league, and several others. I mean, and it's really about awareness for these particular charities through a scavenger hunt powered by Coke. What else can I say?
What else are you going to say about it? I think it's a.
And you got to check in, and you got to share it, on Facebook and all that kind of stuff.
But that's what Coke has been very good at, combining the social and the local and the mobile side. And we talk about vending machines. We talk about the way that they've pushed the boundaries on this, and they use their clout for good. Like, didn't they ran a campaign to save the polar bears, right?
Yeah.
So you know what. I tip my hat to Coke, and but the feedback that I've heard from this is that it's unique and it's interesting, but to rebrand the company as a health company is crazy, and I think that these guys partnered with Keep.me and
yes.
to own their water line. I can't remember what it's called, but to own this kind of
Dasani.
Yeah, Dasani, to own the health food or the health moment, right, or the healthy moment in Keep.me. So they're really trying to do it, and they realized with Coke being all beverages, all soft drinks being removed from schools, right, from grade schools, all the vending machines no longer carry pop, at least in Canada, simply because it's just not good for you. It's just not. There's no way around it. It's not good for you. So I think that them giving back is like cigarette smoking or cigarette manufacturers putting, donating to cancer research. I think it's something that they have to do. Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. Okay, so Coca Cola Movement for a Movement campaign. Very cool. All right, our next story, Steve, I saw this company, Nuance. I don't know if everybody's heard of Nuance. They announced this thing in April called Talking Ads. And I saw the announcement. I was at the VentureBeat Mobile Summit in April of this year, of 2013. And I was there when they announced this, and they gave some demonstrations about the Talking Ads.
We all know mobile advertising presents a huge opportunity. With hundreds of billions of ad impressions per month, it's hard to ignore. In such a crowded environment, how can an ad stand out and deliver an effective and engaging message? And with over 1 billion unique smartphone users, how do you deliver a message appropriate to each individual? The answer is simple. Start a conversation. From the leaders in speech recognition software comes Nuance Voice Ads. Nuance Voice Ads use speech recognition to produce a verbal message based on a consumer's conversational input. If a consumer is in the Valentine's Day doghouse and, like a lot of people, doesn't know much about flowers, a Nuance Voice Ad can make a suggestion and guide them through the purchase process.
Who are you in trouble with?
My wife.
Okay, damage control. Does she have a favorite flower?
Probably. I don't know what it is, though.
Of course you don't. Tell you what, I'm gonna recommend these and a lot of groveling.
If a company wants to create a more engaging brand-building interaction, Nuance Voice Ads can give their audience a more personalized experience. Should I buy a new car?
What kind of car is it?
It's a nice four-door sedan with all the bells and whistles.
Why not? Buy it. This is America. That's what we do. And while you're at it, use Alpha. You'll be glad you did.
Your brand has a voice. Your consumer has a voice. Let's start the conversation.
And I can't tell. I couldn't tell the judging from the crowd whether or not they were applauding based to just to be really, to be polite, or if they really thought this was a good idea. But it turns out, hey, you know what? Sweden thinks this is a good idea.
Yeah, they do. So I mean, if you're not familiar with Nuance, I mean, what we're talking about here is Siri type technology. That personal assistant type of stuff, but repurposed in this context for when you see an ad, you can speak to that ad and get a response from that ad, a verbal response, that is. And so in April,
but in 40 languages.
In 40 languages, yeah. And so two Swedish media companies or apps have decided to go ahead with this. Back in April, when they announced this at the VentureBeat thing that you were at, they had announced a partnership with Millennial Media and JumpTap, which, as we just talked about last show, are now one company. They haven't yet actually launched this in North America yet. So the Swedish guys have kind of jumped ahead a little bit and said, we believe in this stuff. We want to go for it and make it happen. So the way I look at this is it's like a Siri, but it's a commercial version of Siri, an ad endorsed version of Siri. And the opportunity that I like about that I see here is really think about any major corporation. Let's go with Coca Cola, right? And you've got a question about a product, how you go to a website for a major company like that, and they've got those auto response engine things where you type your question in and then it comes back with what it thinks the answers are, and then you say no, and did this help you? No, all that. Think about doing that in a voice way now.
Well, think about
an ad. Yeah, you see an ad for Coca Cola, and you ask it a question, and you get a response, and so I think there's a big opportunity to take this kind of technology and apply it to that kind of thinking.
Don't you remember, if you're Canadian and you're listening to this, Rogers wanted to do this. They wanted to get rid of every human possible on the planet, and they went with an automatic voice system like this, and they named it and they tried to give it a personality, and it was terrible. It was like New Coke, right? It was the equivalent to New Coke. Didn't work. Customer satisfaction was down the drain. It just so they went back to a mix of human and automated system, and I would not want to see that happen with this. Whether or not I believe.
Just think about all the guys out there that are sitting around right now, though, Rob, that I know she's no longer on the payroll anymore,
Yeah.
but to go back to the GoDaddy story, Danica Patrick was their front person.
Yes.
So all these guys now that are phoning in just to hear Danica's voice.
Yeah, I know exactly.
Talking to the ad just to hear Danica's voice. Yeah.
Well, you know what? If this is like a phone sex, I think this would be great, right? It would be, right? But I'm not as
online gambling and porn are still 1 and 2, man.
It is.
It never goes away.
And nobody's really figured it out.
You bring voice ads to that now, and you're laughing.
I think so. I think that this is great. Or you can. There are some uses. Maybe I'm too harsh on this, but I was chuckling a little bit when I was thinking about it. I just threw up a little bit in my mouth when I thought about the idea of actually talking to an ad. Like, who in their right mind would want to talk to an ad? And while the guy was up on stage talking about this, and I thought, like, this can't be real. Nobody wants to talk to an ad. And I think that there's some gamification pieces that can work very well with this. Like the old days, like You Don't Know Jack. I think that they should bring You Don't Know Jack back together with some advertisements, and I think that there could be some fun with it. So don't get me wrong. The biggest technology that I loved about what Nuance was doing was their noise filtering system, because they had to make this work inside of a bar with 1,000 voices talking at the same time, music blaring, and everybody screaming and glasses clinking. And what they were able to do, which was, I think, where they're going to make a lot of money, is the fact that they can actually remove the background noise so it's focused on the voice. And I think that is a killer feature here. They had to make it work in a very crowded space. And the guy was on stage saying that they made it work in a very crowded space. So I think that this is a very unique technology, maybe misapplied to the ad space, unless they bring back that game You Don't Know Jack, and then that is what they use across the board, because I think that trivia, porn, and gambling, man, that is perfect for automatic response and voice.
But even think about this now, combined with the paper gaze stuff that we just talked about.
Yeah, it could be.
Right?
Yeah.
Think about, you're walking by, you look at a billboard, your gaze is focused on that billboard, the advertiser's paying for that impression.
Yes.
And now you verbalize, it's a BMW billboard, where's the closest dealership?
Yeah.
And it tells you.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's pretty crazy.
Well, I mean, I think that's partially what Google Glass is doing right now, where you can talk to, they say, Glass, show me where the nearest dealership is. And I think that's a very unique piece to it. But this whole interaction, like, the last thing I want is ads talking back to me. Like, I hate it when I land on a web page and the video automatically plays, or an ad automatically plays, right? Or a pop-up and an ad automatically plays in the background. It drives me crazy. So the idea that
that's not because it's not contextual to you.
No, it's not. So
right?
Contextualized is the difference. That's it.
Yes, that's all.
Well, Nuance, the talking ads, they're using it in Europe. One of the apps is a TV guide service, and the other one is the national daily newspaper Expressen. And again, 40 languages across North and South America, Europe, Middle East, Asia, and Australia. I didn't realize they spoke a different language in Australia than North America. It's just, different kind of English. Pretty cool. Nuance. Speaking ads. And if you guys out there have used one of these speaking ads, and if you're in Europe and they start to roll out, we would love to talk to you about that. Or better yet, you can leave us a comment. Leave us your impression of it and how you felt about it at untether.tv/talk, and we will play it here. Nuance, talking ads. Very cool. Sort of. Neat. Sort of.
There you go. All right.
Our time for our last story. This just broke late last week. Apple acquiring this company called Embark. And this is kind of right on the tail. I think Apple acquired HopStop about 3 weeks ago. So everybody was like, this is obviously... This is transit information, and HopStop was transit information. So obviously, we all know the story, the plight of Google Maps and Apple Maps, and the fact that they got rid of the transit information when they dumped Google Maps, and now they're obviously interested in bringing it back in a big way. There's nothing more local than transit, and especially something that is such a huge gap in Apple Maps now compared to Google. Apparently, Embark, they say, is, according to the CEO, is far greater and far superior than Google's transit information. And it's in their strategy with which they've gone after cities, independent cities. And instead of deploying one big app, they've deployed city-based apps. And I think that it's very interesting. So if you're interested in the differences here, HopStop, how they complement each other is HopStop kind of provides walking, taxi, and bike directions in addition to the kind of the mass transit routes and maps, et cetera, like that. And Embark's strategy was to spread it out its transit apps, delivering one for each market. It's in a dozen markets total. So they had right when Google was off Apple, and it was just Apple Maps. Kind of the month after that happened, they were downloaded 100,000 times. And here's a perfect example of Apple inflating the value of something like Embark. We don't know what they paid for it, but Apple, when it was asked in Apple Maps about transit information, Apple gave, like, the top link was Embark. So they created this company. They created the value. They created the popularity, and then they went out and bought it. Good strategy. I think. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I do. And you know, I'm gonna go out on a limb here, and I think, you know, first of all, I think Apple is absolutely investing in their maps. There's no doubt that Apple believes they can put out their own mapping product that's as good or better than Google's.
Yep.
And I think they've made some acquisitions along that line. I think Apple's strategy, you know, from kind of reading between the lines, for me, Apple's strategy isn't only about quality mapping data, though. It's about how you leverage that data, how you leverage the location of the device. And I think Passbook plays a big role in this too. I think if you think about Embark and you think about these cities that they've got in the system right now, and these very local transit apps, as you just described them, you know, by city, you know, the MBTA in Boston, Chicago's transit, you know, whatever. And then you think about, okay, bus cards and transit fares, and you think about all that kind of stuff, and how does that fit into the strategy? Well, you got to have, you know, full integration with that, you know, with that local authority, you know, to make that work properly, right? And then if I can have my bus pass show up in my Passbook, and I can have this map show up in Passbook, and I can have all that kind of stuff, and I can facilitate that transaction. That's really interesting. And then think about the other layer, which is, you know, the other side of Apple, which is the sort of the media entertainment side of Apple. And think about iTunes Radio, which is about to launch, right?
Yep.
And you think about, you know, everybody that's sitting on that transit right now in Boston or in Chicago, and they're sitting there with their earphones in, and they're listening to their music, and they're listening to what? Pandora or Spotify, and soon iTunes Radio. You know, I think all of these things come together, and this local data, this transit data, that ability to interrupt the stream, to say, hey, by the way, don't get stuck in that song, and, you know, your station's coming up next. You know, all that kind of stuff is where Apple's going to kill.
Gold.
Google, I tell you, Google is not even close to that.
No, it's not. Google's on the gadget rampage, and Apple is trying to piece together, you know, this path to commerce and path to transaction, and it's fascinating.
Apple is unique. Always has been unique in understanding the flow of what the consumer wants and how they use things, and, you know, that path that they travel during their life and their day and all that kind of stuff. And that's where, for me, this isn't just about data. This is about how does this data weave into this ecosystem of all the stuff that we do in a day, and how does it just get served up to us magically when we need it.
You know, it's fascinating. You hear a lot of people talking about this. You know, the upcoming release. I think it's the great, you know, known secret that early September they're going to talk about the new iPhone, and iOS 7 is going to be out soon. And the focus seems to be on whether or not Apple can innovate on the hardware side, right? And the huge conversations around the flat nature of the new iOS, and whether people like it or not, and the new features of the operating system and the phone, and whether it's going to have a fingerprint scanner and all that kind of stuff. And what gets lost in these conversations is who gives a shit about the hardware, right?
Yeah.
The hardware is the conduit to the software, to the service layer. And if you own the stack, which Apple does, and RIM had an opportunity, BlackBerry had an opportunity, they owned the stack. They owned the operating system, the hardware manufacturing, they owned it all from the bottom and up. But you know, Apple owns that stack, And then they own every service layer on top of that. And if they get location right, and if they do this right, you're exactly right. Passbook is a disaster right now. Like, nobody knows what to do with it. I don't want to download additional applications in order to be able to enable Passbook. So something is going to emerge from this that is going to be exactly like that. Like, I mean, in Canada, we have, what I can only say is a failed transit system payment platform. You launched in Toronto. It was like 18 months over, delayed, and it was way over budget. In Ottawa, we did the same thing. It's been 2 years, and they're just rolling out the cards now. And the challenge here is that we all carry one of these devices, and whatever they're doing right now is transitory. And who's going to own this? Who's going to own that data? And why couldn't it be Apple? Why couldn't it be Passbook? Right, as an enabler? Yeah, you're so right. And then iTunes Radio, it's just they own so much of how we do our day. And context is the last piece. And there are 400 million people that use iOS now in multiple devices. Mm-hmm. Oh, my God. Crazy. So, I think that we focus on the wrong things. Don't get me wrong. Hardware is fine. Like, whatever. Hardware is hardware.
You got to have the cool stuff, right? But at the end of the day, it's all about application layer. It's all about, how these things weave and interfit with each other. And yeah.
We don't even talk about the hardware that's coming out, maybe the watch or whatever it is going to be, that is the kind of an evolutionary step from the smartphone to the watch. Not to, throw like a ridiculous piece of hardware on my face. Like, I already don't like wearing glasses, right? So fascinating. I mean, this is going to be an ongoing debate, I think, throughout this number of years to come. And whether or not Cook is a good CEO and can lead this company, who knows? But man, it sounds like he can. I couldn't do this, I don't think. And Microsoft I could run. Microsoft I could run.
How about just while we're on the topic of can people lead companies or not? Because we haven't talked about her for like a few weeks, Rob.
What?
How about Marissa?
Oh yes, what is going on there?
How about those numbers that came out this week that said they surpassed Google in search?
Well, you know what? It's does that surprise you? Now this is just web search, right? So they didn't factor in mobile and the impact that mobile's had, and we know that the impact that mobile has had. But Yahoo has great mobile properties.
They're basically saying it's the Tumblr effect.
Yeah, but they didn't consider this doesn't include Tumblr in the numbers.
Yes. So but you're talking about like what? How many acquisitions? Like every week there's one, right?
I know. They're acquiring numbers, but it's fascinating to watch this go on, and so some would say that this is Marissa buying companies, buying traffic. Okay, fine, but you know what? The other side of it is also could be that Google has strayed so far away from their core competency, which is search and results, and getting into so many different business lines and being so scattered across so many business lines that they could also have this mad vision like Apple does, where they're going to they're thinking 9 steps ahead, and it's all going to come in and land 9 steps ahead, and then all of a sudden it's going to be like, you know what? Those 3 losing years against Yahoo, because it's going to be like 30x the size of what the search impact is going to be. So who knows what happens here?
Who knows?
That one moment, Yahoo's like,
I'm just waiting for the next Project Loon.
Yeah, exactly. It's in space. Pigs in space. All right, those are the 7 stories that we talked about with the Mobile Minute from Chuck. Obviously, our great app of the week, which is Clinch.co. We got one last piece of business here, which is the resource of the week. And Asif, this is amazing. You think that the industry is big, the location-based marketing in services is big in North America, but here's a comparison between Europe and North America, and based on what I read, it looks like North America is poised to, or Europe is poised to grow far greater than North America in the next year.
Yeah, I mean, we're certainly North America has certainly had a leg up for a while at this, but this is new research from Berg Insight, and it's nice. I mean, people ask me all the time at these conferences, is it the same in North America? Are we behind this, that, the other thing, whatever? And the answer to that is it depends on what part of the industry we're talking about. But when we talk about overall LBS, which is what this is looking at, they're saying in 2012 the market was $325 million in Europe, and they're expecting that to grow by 21% to $825 million by 2017. Contrast that to North America, the market right now, or in 2012, was $835 million. and they only expect 9% growth, bringing it to 1.3 billion. So obviously the growth is in Europe. That's where the focus should be if you're looking to invest in new markets and other things. Outside of Asia is growing just as fast, in fact faster, I would argue,
right,
in different segments. But I think the North American market is maturing around this stuff. People are starting to come up, into line with the general population. I don't know, what were the numbers on the install base now? 55% in North America?
55%, yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And they're saying, like, in Europe, 40% of mobile subscribers in Europe use some form of location-enhanced application on a regular basis. And those are big numbers. 50% taking advantage of LBS at least monthly in the U.S. And Canada. So, I mean, these are... whether you know it or not, whether you take a photo or you put a tweet out there with a location, you're participating in the location world by doing that. And
you got it.
And so these numbers can grow, and now it's up to marketers, it's up to commerce enable these pieces. So we talked, the mobile minute with Chuck talking about QR codes and their slow plight. And as I said at the very end of that, it's like the marriage of a QR code and location and context and commerce. It's all got to come together, and I think that's where we're going to start to see a huge impact for revenue for location-based marketing and services. The other side is the adoption, the smartphone adoption. They say is plateaued in North America, but continues to grow at like a gangbuster pace in Europe and in Asia. Yeah. So it's just going to get bigger. But we know that this is our business.
That's it.
So if you're interested in that...
But we wanted you to know that, so there you go.
Yeah, we just want to make sure that you have the same knowledge we do. And that's why you come here every week. Like, we just jammed this entire episode full of knowledge bombs. Did I just say that? It's late.
You did.
Yeah.
Knowledge bomb. Yeah.
Knowledge bombs. Yes, and that's why we do this every week. But if you want to know, they can go to the lbma.com/research. This will be there, obviously.
Yes.
Yes, it will be. Or you can come to untether.tv. This is episode number 144. You can check us out there, and certainly you'll be able to find the show notes there as well. They're a little bit more detailed this time around. But that's it. All those stories, the resource of the week, Chuck, Martin, Clinch.co, and that was it. Do you have anything else to contribute to this episode?
I think I'm good.
Man.
Gotta get back out to the lake.
Exactly. Yes. I don't think your family will know that you've gone. I think that they won't miss you. They won't miss you. All right. Well, that is episode number 144. Thank you all for sticking through. And please hit up wherever you downloaded this. Give us a review. We'd really appreciate it. It's our currency. Thank you for doing that if you've already done it. We love you. And thank you for sticking around. We'll see you next week for episode number 145. Asif, have a safe week, man.
Cheers.
See you later, everybody.